Today's teaching is on creating meaning too early. I don't know if many of you have noticed, but so many of the adults in the world are emotionally and spiritually immature. And because of this, what is commonly the message in a immature society is to make meaning out of really hard and difficult things too early. Meaning, we can bypass the harsh reality with saying things like everything happens for a reason, or there's a deeper meaning here. And while there may be, that meaning making is partially how humans have evolved. We are storytelling beings. We also get into the intellectual, and when the hard things are going on, to fill the gap between what is happening inside of us and outside of us in order to survive. So meaning making, especially when it's forced and too early, is we want to be really compassionate and sensitive, because we're probably going through a really hard thing, or someone is going through a really hard thing if meaning is pushed really early. From a trauma perspective, meaning in its authentic and helpful form happens after there is stabilization, after there is nervous system regulation, after there is trauma processing, after there is integration, and then meaning arrives naturally. It arrives naturally without being forced, okay? And this can be really, really hard when we don't see a lot of adults that really understand this. Even practitioners, they may push for meaning, they may push for forgiveness. And what is happening in the moment is simply someone is trying to survive. And instead of forcing meaning, what we can do, what we actually can hang on and anchor on into, is our resources instead. What we can hang on to before we emotionally or spiritually bypass ourselves or another, a group of people, whoever that may be, is we can suggest to someone to hang on to their resources. What are resources? Resources are some of the things that provide some anchoring and stability to us in the past, like how we have made it through hard things. Some people's resources can be music. For example, music can help people through hard things. Making music, listening to music, those types of things. Nature can be a resource. Certain people can be resources. Pets can be resources. I'm a big fan of tea. Tea is a big resource for me. Writing can be a resource. Sometimes it can be, it depends. It's very specific to the person, what is very resourcing. And it depends in the moment if it can be a resource or not. And resources are best used when someone is pushing, use a resource. Because you want that to come from within rather than to be forced into meaning making, forgiveness, or what I call is emotionally, spiritually bypassing somebody going through a really hard time, even if that somebody is you going through a really hard time. We can also know that meaning comes actually in its authentic form, comes after the trauma has been processed in the work that I do through the body, metabolized through the body, and then the body comes with the storytelling in the resource. Now I know this is very different than what most of society says, because most of society tries to talk things out and create meaning a little bit too early. And I am not to say, even in this video, at one point one person is to make meaning, because sometimes meaning can be really, really helpful for someone to say, okay, this This is happening for a reason, because they are in the midst of trauma. So I'm not to take that from someone. I am to suggest to people that are working with people, or if you have the space within your own process where you're at, to understand that meaning can come after, because you can in your midst of the trauma and stress not like it, and simply not like it, or it to be really difficult, and that is okay. That's okay, because that makes you human, that makes things very real, and that's authentic, and we don't have to bypass it. There's so much re-traumatization that we can cause to ourselves and other people by forcing them to forgive, forcing them to make meaning, forcing them to look on the positive side of things without understanding the other side of the coin, the harsh reality. Oftentimes when someone is suggesting it, one or two things have happened. Suggesting meaning making too early, suggesting forgiveness, suggesting positive vibes only. Number one, they are communicating that they either don't have the training or skill to sit with you in your process and what's going on, or they haven't sat with themselves, because when they are pushing that, they are fracturing and cutting you off from your humanity, because our humanity and wholeness includes every single aspect, every emotion, every experience. It's all welcome. Now, I will say we need skill to be able to process and feel that, and that's why I talk and teach so much about what I talk and teach about with the nervous system, with somatics, with all of these things, because we have to do that with skill. I have a whole other thought train coming up. That's for a whole other video though. And in this one, I want to talk about how we can re-traumatize ourselves. So we can re-traumatize ourselves by bypassing our own feelings, bypassing the very thing, the very difficult emotion, the very hard thing to say and admit to ourselves or another person that could help us move through this and be met with compassion and be met with support. And I can understand the hesitancy that a lot of people have, because there's so many people that do not have the capacity to be with difficult, quote unquote, emotions. They're just emotions. Emotions are emotions. There's not a positive or a negative. There just are. And so we can re-traumatize ourselves, meaning that when we are in a new trauma, or when we're in a trigger, which is trauma physiology is activated, there can be this opening for compassionate witnessing and regulating resources that can help to consolidate some of that trauma physiology. But if someone can be met and received in their raw human form, and it's hopefully done very skillfully in this meeting and receiving and processing, hopefully. And when someone's in there in the midst of a new big stressful emotional experience, or a big triggering experience, and they are told, oh, everything happens for a reason, or to make meaning too early, the really important piece of being with another person, that can cause trauma from like a relational aspect, because we are meant as humans, as human beings, to be with and to support one another through wonderful things, boring things, and difficult things. That is how we have survived for millennia, is by being and supporting with one another, not by bypassing. That doesn't help. That tells someone's nervous system, subliminally, I'm not available for this, and it's basically gaslighting the feelings that are happening, which are real. They're real phenomenon, and we don't have to grasp onto them, but they are happening. They are real. The feelings are real. And so what is happening inside someone is they're activated, or they're stressed, or a new trauma is in the midst of happening right now, and they have to swallow the quote unquote negative feeling because they're not making the right meaning from it, and now that's there too in addition to what was going on, and so hence the re-traumatization of that, because from the relational field, from the two nervous systems communicating and creating like its own nervous system, it's been, I show this with my hand, it's been shut down from the relational field of like, that feeling isn't welcome here, so get it out of here. And that's not possible, because if we are to be fans of reality, feelings are real and that's okay. And just to be with that. And it's really, really important. It's really important. I could probably talk about this for 17 hours straight. I won't. I'm going to leave this video here and let me know what you kind of think about what I've talked about. Of course, being pushed to making meaning early versus you deciding to make meaning early, those are two very different things. And I also want people to know that there's another option besides grasping onto meaning making, with the option of saying something like, this is hard, I need support, I don't know what to do, this is difficult, I don't like this is too much. We want to know that. And that can open up a whole thing and be attached to a whole thing, because those words can make us feel very vulnerable, which can bring us into other trauma physiology of when we were vulnerable and needed someone else. And I can understand why people aren't saying or being able to know that. And at the same time, to be a whole human, we cannot only stay in the meaning channel. We cannot grasp onto that, because we can have our resources and we can be reminded of our resources. From this video, a really hot tip, I want to give videos and teachings with actual resources for people. It's a wild idea to put videos on the internet and not just keep people dysregulated, but to actually leave you with some regulation and some hope and some resources, because that's the change I wish to see and be in the world, rather than keeping everybody dysregulated. So think about, don't get drawn too much into this, but just if your life story was like chapters and like you got through things and something helped you get through it, whether it's nature, reading, books, write a list of those things down, maybe starting with 3 things. 3 things of your resources, and things that are consistently for you helpful. Maybe it's the smell of lavender, maybe it's tea, maybe it's a certain person, maybe it's a song, maybe it's a poem, maybe it's a book, maybe it is the idea of a place, or maybe it is a place. It can be really anything. It doesn't even have to be real. It can be something that, like a safe space that you've encountered in meditation. All it has to do is just be helpful for you. And I invite you to put and gather your resources. Maybe put a note on your phone, get a sticky note, put it on your fridge, take a screenshot, write it down. Maybe you're like, I've never heard of this resource before. Okay. And for the next week, gather some things that help. Maybe it's a bubble bath, maybe it's a hot shower, maybe it's your favorite pair of socks. Put it on the list. And then these things can be used for these things, these people, these songs, these places. The ideas of these places can be used when you're encountering, a difficult moment, stressful moment, and when you're in the midst of things, because we can deepen from the thought, we can go into the body. I'm not going to make a video on that, but how that resource makes you feel. Because our body makes not only trauma memories through physiology, it also makes healing memories through the body. So your body has this visceral memory of this resource that can be activated with intention. So if you want to do a bonus here, is not only bring the resource to mind, but like tap into your body from like head to toe and bring that body-based memory of that resource. It can just even be a photo of something that can be resourcing for you in the moment. And that can be something to grasp onto instead of forcing meaning too early. Forcing meaning. Meaning will come. Meaning naturally comes when there's been stabilization, when there's been nervous system regulation, when there's been somatic processing, when there's been integration, then the story comes up. And it might come up in a somatic processing just from the body. That is how it comes up. It comes up from the body to the brain. That's actually how authentic story making is. Trauma story making, when meaning's made too early, is forced in the brain, and then the body is forced into the story. And the body can't be forced in the story when it's experiencing hardship. And that's the disconnect, the fragmentation that trauma causes. Hopefully this has helped you understand a little bit about preemptively making meaning. And hopefully this has helped you tap into maybe your resources or create some of your resources. So I'd love hearing some feedback, comment, share. Thanks for watching.